That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Alright guys, in this video I'm going to go back and look at the 2017 rookie wide receiver ADP and try to compare where it was then to where it is now. And I think this is going to be fun because if you were playing Dynasty back then, you're going to hear some names that you have not heard in a very long time. And even if you weren't, this is going to be useful because we're going to be able to look at what actually goes on when we try to evaluate these rookie classes and how easily things can change. So if we're going in, we want to make sure that we are not being overconfident with valuing these 2020 rookie wide receivers. So let's just start it off, and I'm going to go in order of the way that they were drafted in 2017. And the first player was Corey Davis. I know, I got really burned from Corey Davis last offseason. I was avoiding him hard his rookie year whenever he was being drafted in the top 3 of Dynasty startups and whenever he was going out there in the top 3 of rookie drafts. I mean, if y'all remember, it was Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, and then pretty much Corey Davis at that 3 pick. And a lot of people loved the profile. Everything you looked at it, he had fantastic production. We didn't necessarily get to see his athletic measurables just because he was injured in the offseason process. If y'all remember, that was really something that most people wanted to see, but we really overlooked it as a community, and maybe we should not have, because so far in his career, Corey Davis has really not lived up to the hype. I mean, the Tennessee Titans went out there and selected him with the 5th overall pick, so that is telling you exactly what the NFL thought of him. And by seeing him go as the #1 wide receiver in Dynasty drafts, which I still believe if we had to go back and we looked at this profile, I think that was the correct pick in positional rankings. I think it was a poor process selection if you were taking him over the round 1 running backs. Yet nonetheless, we are here looking now, and if we look at this 2017 draft class, Corey Davis has fallen all the way down to wide receiver 7. Some guys that were going way later in rookie drafts have jumped up and are exponentially more valuable than Corey Davis. Now, the second player that we're going to talk about is also a disappointment, and this is Mike Williams, who is going as the 2nd wide receiver in rookie drafts. Now, he was actually outside of that tier 1. If y'all remember, there was that really sharp drop-off after the first 7 picks in most rookie drafts, and Mike Williams was right outside that, and he was selected with the 7th overall pick in the NFL draft, even though he did not necessarily have the analytical measurements that most people wanted to see from a production and an athleticism standpoint. Yet nonetheless, they go out there, the Chargers take him at 7th overall, and I'm surprised I didn't end up with more Mike Williams. I think I just kind of got lucky and was never picking in that range because y'all know, especially last offseason, I put way too much emphasis on draft capital. And Mike Williams had it in Mike Williams' profile to be a ex-wide receiver. And now we're looking at his dynasty value, and he's also fallen like a rock, just like Corey Davis. And now he's going as the 5th wide receiver in this draft class. Now, someone who has not been able to stay healthy, yet when he's been on the field, he's actually looked pretty good. And this is John Ross. John Ross was being selected as the 3rd wide receiver in Dynasty rookie drafts in 2017. Yet we look at him now, and after being selected at the 9th pick of the NFL draft, he's going as the 8th wide receiver from this draft class. I mean, health is everything with John Ross, and it looks like the Bengals may be getting ready to move on by investing in T. Higgins with an early 2nd round pick, although they already have A.J. Green on the franchise tag, and they have Tyler Boyd, who projects to be their leader in targets. So we're looking at John Ross, and maybe the Bengals don't plan on him. Maybe the Bengals just plan on replacing A.J. Green with T. Higgins, but nonetheless, we know that his dynasty value has dramatically shifted. Now, this one player, this is going to be a name that some of y'all have not heard in a very long time. This is someone that I got lucky, and I did not like him at all during rookie drafts, and this is Zay Jones. Zay Jones was actually going as the 4th wide receiver in rookie drafts. A lot of film guys, you know, I'm always very critical of these dynasty quote-unquote analysts that think they can go out there and they can watch film better than an NFL team and tell you who to draft on your fantasy football team. They loved Zay Jones. They were all over Zay Jones, and Zay Jones actually had a decent production profile, but there were some red flags on that profile, and we all know about the incident where he saw that major mental breakdown off the field. Very sad for Zay Jones. Really hope that he is doing a lot better, but nonetheless, we look at his dynasty value now, and there is none. I mean, Zay Jones is currently being undrafted in dynasty startup drafts. We know we last saw him with the Raiders. The Raiders have gone out there and they have significantly invested in the wide receiver position this offseason. And Zay Jones, I mean, I would say if he does anything at this point, it would be unbelievably surprising. Now, a player that I am buying everywhere this offseason. I'm going out there and paying above market price for him, and this is Juju Smith-Schuster, who's currently going as the 5th wide receiver in 2017 rookie drafts, and he was selected with the 62nd overall pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, he comes in and puts up historic production at an extremely young age and skyrockets in dynasty value. Now, we know that he was being valued as a mid-round 1 startup pick last offseason, yet without Ben Roethlisberger in this offense, we saw that his production really fell off the cliff, which is making a lot of Juju Smith-Schuster owners scared. Now he is only being valued as the 2nd wide receiver in this draft class, and I'm going out there, and I've said it a million times. I think my ownership at Juju Smith-Schuster is at 45% now. He is one player that I am entirely confident in being overweight on. Now, let's go out there and talk about Curtis Samuel, a player that's also saw his dynasty value fall this offseason with the addition of Robbie Anderson. But if you remember, Curtis Samuel was everyone's favorite hype guy last offseason. I mean, you could have gotten a good profit on what you invested with the 6th wide receiver in the 2017 rookie draft. I mean, if we look at his profile, he had pretty much everything that you would want to see. If he came out today, I think I would be really excited about him. He has great athleticism. He has the draft capital. He was selected with the 40th pick in the NFL draft, and he has the age on his side. He's still extremely young. We look at him in the same light as a Juju Smith-Schuster. It's just going to be hard for him to get on the field and hard for him to get targets with DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson, and Ian Thomas all in that offense. So I think this is a player that I don't really say this about many guys, but maybe he's better on his 2nd NFL team. But nonetheless, right now he's actually being drafted as the 6th wide receiver in this draft class. So his value's about stayed the same from where it was in rookie drafts. But let's move on to our next guy. Cooper Kupp, someone I entirely missed on. I did not believe in him at all, mainly because he was such an old prospect coming out of college, and I did not necessarily want to invest into him. But at the price he was going, clearly Cooper Kupp was a smash. And I think the reason I overlooked Cooper Kupp, I think whenever a team will go out there and invest that premium draft capital on a non-athlete that profiles to be a slot receiver, that's a guy that's going to get targets. Because if a guy that's going to stretch the field gets the draft capital, maybe they just plan on using him to make the other players around him more efficient and not necessarily force feed him targets. But I think when a team goes out there and spends a premium pick like the Los Angeles Rams did with the 69th overall pick in the 2017 draft on a slot wide receiver like Cooper Kupp, we should take notice. We should go out there and try to invest in that player. Now, another player that got a ton of hype in the preseason of his rookie season, and I mean, it's just funny to bring up the name. This is Taiwan Taylor, who was being drafted as the 8th wide receiver in Dynasty rookie drafts. And looking into it, I expected Taiwan Taylor to be a day 3 prospect with my short memory, but he was actually selected with the 72nd overall pick in the NFL draft. Now we see that he pretty much has done nothing his entire NFL career. I don't even know if he's on an NFL roster anymore. He's most likely a free agent, but he's going undrafted in fantasy leagues, and that's all that really matters. He has no shot of becoming relevant whatsoever. Now, another guy that fits the same mold, Carlos Henderson. I mean, he was being drafted as the wide receiver 9 in rookie drafts, and he went with the 82nd pick in the NFL draft, and he is also currently underrated. And this was a guy I was actually excited about. I thought that he was going to be able to do something in Denver, and we saw that they went out there and invested in Courtland Sutton the next season, and maybe that should have been the sign that we should have been off Carlos Henderson for good. Now, the last 2 players have probably been the 2 players that I whiffed on most last offseason. I went out there, and I've apologized a million times for this, but I told y'all, go out there and sell Chris Godwin wherever you had him. Told you to go get that pretty penny that you could have fetched for the hype player last offseason. And yeah, I mean, we clearly see that he hits the absolute best in his range of outcomes. And I did not necessarily expect this, especially considering we look at this player and he was the number 2 option in his offense. I thought that Mike Evans was going to continue to be an alpha. I thought that we were actually going to see O.J. Howard take a significant step up. I'll actually talk about O.J. Howard in a video coming up. I thought that if we look back and look at his profile, it's extremely interesting to see how his career has played out till now. Yet we look at Chris Godwin, and he was being drafted as the wide receiver 10 in this 2017 class of rookies. Yet we go out there and we see that right now he pretty much has more dynasty value than any of these guys, including Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, how many Corey Davises on your team would you have to trade for Chris Godwin? I mean, it doesn't matter how many you have. You could not get a hold of him. And it's just funny how the tides have turned. And if we look at this profile, I think it shows that we should be willing to go out there and invest in athletic young wide receivers who have day 2 draft capital if they are going this late in rookie drafts. Very similar to the Chris Godwin, we see Kenny Goliday, another guy that during rookie draft season in 2017, I didn't have a podcast then, but I had a ton of dynasty teams, and I did not draft Kenny Goliday on a single one. I completely whiffed. He was going as the wide receiver 11. Now he's currently going as the wide receiver 3. The Detroit Lions took him with the 96th pick in the NFL draft. I mean, this is a guy that if you would have invested in, you would have got some great production, and you would have a great dynasty asset right now. But I overlooked him, and I don't really know what the lesson is here. I think that if I saw a player that had Kenny Golladay's profile coming into the NFL today, I think I would also pass, just because Kenny Goliday was an older prospect similar to a Cooper Kupp, but he didn't profile to be a slot wide receiver, so I don't think I can learn the Cooper Kupp lesson. And I think I'm just going to have to accept the fact that I'll miss a Kenny Goliday here and there, but hopefully I can hit on some other guys. Now, that's all I got. I really hope you all enjoyed this video. Really hope you all got something from it. As always, if you did, make sure you drop a like and make sure you subscribe to the channel.
That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.